So we're going to pick up right where we left off, and I just want to give us a quick reminder of what we talked about at the very end of Matthew chapter 9. You remember, one of the last things that Jesus said is, the harvest is ready, right? The fields are ripe, they're ready, but the workers are few. And I want us to remember that because, although we split this up into chapters and verses, remember, as Matthew's writing this, he's writing out the whole story, and this is kind of all one event that's going on. So I want us to keep that in mind as we're going through Matthew chapter 10 today, because I want us to understand what's actually going on. And so he starts with the workers are few, and how does he start Matthew chapter 10? He starts it in this way. Matthew 10, verse 1. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who's called Peter, his brother Andrew, James the son of Zebedee, his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Okay, so this is how it opens, and and I want us to pay attention to the words being used here. Okay, this is very important. It does not say, and then Jesus gave them the magic power to drive out impure spirits and heal disease and sickness. It doesn't say that. And I know I keep hammering on this point, but I think it's so important that we recognize the difference. It's not the power, it's not the magic or the ability. He gives them what? He gives them authority. Why? And there's a bunch of you here, and the kids, you guys will remember this because I spooked every single one of you when I did this. What did Jesus do during the storm? How did he stop the wind and the waves? He rebuked it, right? He said, hey, that's enough. Quit. Why? Because Jesus has authority, right? For a great example of this, if a police officer tells you to freeze, what should you do? You should freeze. That doesn't mean keep going, because you know what happens if you disobey people in authority. There's going to be consequences. And God has the ultimate authority. Jesus has been demonstrating. This is one of the things that I love about Jesus. It's one of those critiques where people are like, oh, but Jesus doesn't come out and say, I am God. But he literally started, he stated at the beginning of his ministry, it's not about those who say, I am this. It's about those who can demonstrate who they are. Jesus doesn't say, I am God. Jesus shows us again and again and again that he is the King of Kings, that he's the one with authority. And now he's giving that authority over to the 12. You may wonder, why 12? Right? Why 12? Anyone here got kids in school? Here's the thing. How big is your kid's classroom? 28, maybe 30 kids, right? Or more sometimes. How productive does it get at those numbers? Right? We all know the answer to that. Right? It doesn't become very productive. Jesus is actually really smart here. So what Jesus is doing is he's constraining the number. He's saying, I'm going to make sure this inner circle, these 12, get the very best education, that they're going to know all the points. And then guess what? They go out and they teach 12. And then when you teach 12, now you got 144 disciples. And then when those 144 disciples go out and they teach, now you got 1,728 disciples. Can you see where this is going? Right? Jesus understands, yes, it starts small, but it gets big real fast. But Jesus doesn't end there. He carries on in verse 5. It says, these 12, Jesus sent them out, given the following instructions. And remember, this is not the Great Commission. This is while Jesus is still alive. He gives them the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. And as you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons, and freely you have received, freely give. Okay, now here's a question for you. Does this mean, Jesus says, don't go to the Gentiles, don't go to the Samaritans. Does this mean Jesus got an issue he doesn't want them to be spoke to? No, of course not. Right, we've read about, we know, of course, Jesus is going to give the parable of the Good Samaritan. We know, of course, the famous story in the book of John where Jesus meets the Samaritan woman at the well. We, of course, started Matthew chapter, was it 8 or 9? I can't remember which one. But where Jesus literally meets with a centurion. And I don't know if you know about centurions, but they were Roman, which was Gentile, or pagan, even worse, right? So, and he met with him and talked with him and performed a healing for him, right? So Jesus doesn't have an issue with this, but this goes back to a promise that God made for Israel. And he's like, and this is something that we see carried on in the book of Acts. And for those of you who were with us when we went through the book of Acts, you'll remember me talking about this as well, right? He went first to the Jews. Why? Because they're primed. They're waiting and they're ready. Who is it that's waiting for the second coming of Elijah? It ain't the pagans. It's not the Samaritans. It's the Jews. They're waiting. And so what Jesus is saying is, go tell them, because they're waiting. They've been waiting for this moment, waiting for this day, and tell them the day has arrived. And don't just tell them, go in my authority, go in my name, and do the things that you've been seeing me do. Because remember, Matthew chapter 9 is just miracle after miracle, sign after sign, wonder after wonder that Jesus keeps performing. Not for his own sake, but because he wanted to make sure that everyone recognized who he was, so that way they could understand, hey, putting your faith in him, it's the right move. He came to save us. He didn't come because he needs more love. He didn't come because he needs anything. He has everything. He came because he loves us and he wants to free us. And so he gives at the end, he says, look, don't charge $1, don't charge a fee, don't do any of that. Freely I gave this to you, freely give this to other people. Carries on in verse 9, do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. Don't go prepared. This is a very interesting thing. No bag for the journey, or extra shirt, or sandals, or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person. Stay at their house until you leave. And as you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it, and if it's not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly, I tell you, it would be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes, as innocent as doves. Be on guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors, kings, and witnesses. As witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At the time, you will be given what to say. For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. This is big, because this to me is what I see is the biggest challenge for the North American church. Right here, what Jesus was just talking about. There's a couple things that I want to get. Number one, we understand this part almost to a fault, where it says like, don't get any gold, silver, copper, take with you in your belts. Right? He's talking about you shouldn't need to go prepared to help yourself because no one's going to help you. He's like, no, if you go and you're providing something worthwhile for them, they should take care of you. Right? Not only was it a cultural thing, but and we still practice this to this day. Right? I mean, the fact of the matter is, quite frankly, you guys pay for me to be here. Like that's how it is. Because apparently you guys see some value in this. Apparently and you haven't fired me yet, so I'm assuming that means I'm okay at my job. Is that right, John? No, I asked the wrong person. So here's the thing, right? We know this and we take care of people, and we do that. Whenever someone is of worth to us, we provide for them, we take care of them, and we love on them. Right? And this is what Jesus is saying. Like, look, you have something of worth. And guess what? If they're not going to listen, because guess what? They know about Elijah coming. They know that the Messiah is coming. So if they're not willing to hear you out and see the wonders you perform and the things that you're going to do, if they don't see that and they're not convinced that the power of Elijah is here, then guess what? Shake the dust off your feet because it's not worth your time. Now this is what I mean when I say this is the biggest problem with the church in North America today. Because we have this thing where we go, oh, but they didn't hear me. I have to try again and again and again and again and again. Meanwhile, by the way, there's people over here that have been waiting to hear the word the entire time. But we got so stuck, so caught up, so snagged on one individual or one group of individuals that we didn't even bother moving on and doing the mission of God, because God said, look, if they're not going to hear you, don't worry about it. Move on, because there's someone else that is there and waiting to hear from you. There is someone else there who is primed and waiting. And guess what? And he's going to get into this here in a moment in verse 21. One of the biggest snags, especially for North American Christians, is family. Right? Think about that. How many of us have unsaved loved ones? Probably every one of us here. We got someone who's unsaved in our life. Absolutely. And we've told them about Jesus. We told them about our faith. We say, yeah, I love Jesus. This is what Jesus has done for me. And this is the authority that Jesus has. And they go, I don't know about that. Guess what? You've done your job. That's it. You've planted the seed. And then Jesus says, and then we got to go out there and make sure every single day that the seed is growing a little bit more. And if it's not, we got to make sure no, that's not our job. We plant the seed. And guess what? Eventually, down the road, especially if you're living a life full of fruit, as we talked about before, if you've got a life and your life is a life bearing good fruit, and people are able to look at you and go, wow, you changed, you're different, you're like there's something going on with your life. Guess what? They come to you and they ask questions. We plant the seed. Jesus does the work. And then when they do come to us and they have questions and they have problems and they have challenges, this is the time where it says, don't worry about what they're going to say. Don't worry about it. How many times have I heard, but Pastor, I don't know what to say. Don't worry what to say. When you're in those moments, don't worry what to say. God will give it to you. If you're serving the Lord, and guess what? Sometimes I've had these times as well where I'm talking to someone and I'm sharing about Jesus, and I'll share something. I'll be like, I don't even understand what that was about. It's like it seemed really dumb to me. And then I'll talk to that person weeks later or something like that, and they'll be like, that thing that you said, like that really, spoke to me. That really said something to me. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, clearly, to me, that was the Holy Spirit working, because to me, I can't believe I said that. That sounded ridiculous. But we don't have to worry about what we're going to say. We just have to rely on Jesus, allow the Holy Spirit to move through us, and allow him to use us, and then things are going to work. And the other thing, and this is one of the things that you hear me say it a lot, and I really do think that certainly when we're here, I think a lot of the Christians are very well-meaning. But one of the things, and many of you have heard me say this before, I think the worst, most filthy, most disgusting word in Christianity is safety. And we pray for safety all the time. Why? Because we are in a society obsessed with safety. We will sacrifice so much to be safe. And Jesus is not saying that in the least. He said, guess what? You're going to get flogged. They will hate you. They will persecute you. They will arrest you. And as bad as things are in Canada, let's face it, we got it pretty good. Okay? We are not Nigeria. We do not have to worry when we lay our head to rest at night whether or not there's going to be a raiding party coming through our village to kill every single one of us because they hate us. Yes, the world hates us. Why? Because we have the truth. And it's one of those things, right? And you do hear this brought up, and I do agree with this point, right? Christianity is the only group that it's okay to hate, right? We all know that. And you know why? It's because Jesus tells us to be gentle. Jesus tells us to be kind and loving. Not to go against those who go against us, but instead to pray for our enemies, to love on our enemies, to show them grace and kindness. Show them forgiveness. And you know what? It's by that radical change that we are going to change hearts, and this is the exact same mission. Can you imagine that these 12 men were given? Hey, I want you to go out and heal and do miracles. And they're probably like, yeah, sign me up. I'm ready for that. I want to heal the blind. I want to see the lame walk. I want to see the dead rise. That sounds amazing. And he's like, and by the way, you're going to get flogged. Like, can you imagine? That's brutal. And yet, you can't say that Jesus wasn't upfront about the consequences of following him. Right? This is why I say, if you think it's easy to be a Christian, then I would say you're not following Christianity. Because Christianity is not easy. You may be following some sort of sock puppet that pretends to be Christianity, but it's not Christianity, because Christianity is challenging. And he carries on here in verse 21, brother will betray brother to death. This is true. Father and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly, I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. And if the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more the members of his household? So don't be afraid of them. For there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body and cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care, and even the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than sparrows, and whoever acknowledges me before others will also I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. A couple of things I want to address. Number one, right? I mentioned family. Family is a big one for us because family is such an important bond. And we tell our family and we love our family and we want our family. And I'm not saying, by the way, abandon your family. What I'm saying is don't waste your time because there are people around you. Here's the thing. It's one of those things that we were talking about, maybe it was last week or the week before, but it's one of those things that's, of course, very well known, is now that we live in this connected world where, we got all of our stuff right on our watch these days. We're never disconnected, never alone, never apart from anyone. And yet how many of us can tell you the names of the neighbors that live all around you? Right? We don't even know the people around us because we've created our own little isolated bubbles. We're more isolated than ever, and yet we claim to be more connected than ever. But we don't even know the people that are sitting right next to us, the people that are waking up in the next door who desperately need to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. And how are they to hear? Right? We covered this when we went over the book of Romans. Right? There are people out there that are willing to hear, but how will they hear if you do not go? And why will you go if no one will send you? Jesus is sending you. He wants you to go out. Like he said, they will persecute you. You will be hated. There will be people that come against you. There will be people that make some strong accusations against you. But at the end of the day, and this is something that I say to Rebecca all the time. I say, I don't understand how we lost this. But when people get all upset and when they talk about like things in the Bible where let's take the death of the firstborn from the book of Exodus. That's a tragic event. And it's something, if you were here with us when we did our Seder meal, it's not something that we rejoice over. But at the same time, we don't believe that those children's souls got banished to hell. We don't believe that those children stopped existing. We believe that Jesus took them home. This is why there used to be a really big difference between Christian funerals and Gentile funerals. Right? Gentile funeral, you go, everyone wears black, we're all sad, we're crying. Why? Because we have a loss. And a Christian funeral is they went home. They are with the Father. We didn't lose a loved one, our loved one went home, and one day we will see them again. It was a time of celebration. Not that we embrace death, but that we realize that their time was over. Their mission is over. They had been recalled. They have been sent back home, and they are not suffering. They are not going through any challenge, but they are instead with the Father, and the Father is with them. And that is like such good news. So what are we afraid of? And this connects back to what I talked about safety, because we're so afraid of pain. We're so afraid of pain that it literally led to a drug crisis all across North America. Right? We're so afraid of pain, we'll numb it at any chance. How many people, I don't know if this applies to anyone here, but I certainly have these people in my life, they even get the slightest tinge of pain, and they're right to the Tylenol, right to the Advil, right to the painkillers, because they know, I'm not going to deal with it, I'm not going to have it. We're so afraid of pain and suffering. We're so afraid of troubles in this life. And Jesus is saying, why are you afraid of that? Right? Each and every one of them saw. He spoke and the storm stopped. He commanded and the dead rose. He spoke and he said to the demons, flee, and they fled. He said to the blind, see, and they saw. He didn't use magic. He didn't use powers. He has authority. And he's saying, why are you afraid of them who can do so little to you, when your Father in heaven has the power over your very soul? The other thing that Jesus announces here, and I love this because I don't know why, but this has been coming back more and more. This idea of Gnosticism, this idea that there's some secret knowledge. And I've been hearing it more and more and more. And I don't understand. I understand why it's persuasive, because people like to think that they're in on the secret, right? Oh, I'm in on it. I know the thing. But what does Jesus say? He says, no, what I speak to you in the dark will be declared in the day. There's no secrets. There's no secrets. What I tell you, I tell them. What I tell her, I tell him. Right? It's for everybody. There's no secrets. But we have this thing in our society, and I don't understand why we let it grip us so much. And I think this is the biggest challenge for the North American church, is we don't actually have proper fear and respect for the Lord. And it's because we say that and we go, oh, well, why should we be afraid of God? And I said, I didn't say be afraid. I said we need to fear the Lord. We need to understand. Here's the thing. And I've brought this up before. It's an analogy that pales in comparison, but I think it helps get the point across, right? I have a healthy fear of electricity, to the point where when we had that damaged outlet downstairs, I didn't go ahead and just try and do it myself, because I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. This is going to be terrible. I called Jordan. I said, Jordan, can you come here and fix this? Because I needed someone who had the proper skills and the tool set and the proper knowledge to be able to help me. I understood and had a healthy fear of that, and it kept me alive. Not that I was afraid. I wasn't afraid to hit the light switch. I'm not afraid to use electricity. Clearly, you guys all came in here. The building was warm. The lights are on. I'm using a microphone. All of this requires electricity. I'm not afraid of it, but I have a healthy fear, a healthy respect for what it can do. And I think that's the truth, and this is why Proverbs opens with the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. Why? Because we need to recognize who is actually in supreme authority. You think you're afraid of some of the persecution you might face? You think you're afraid of some of the things that you might have to deal with out in life and out in society, going out and telling people? You're afraid you might not know the right thing to say when you're witnessing to people? What are you going to say? And by the way, here's my controversial take for the day. Everyone goes to heaven, but not everyone stays. And we're going to get to that at the end of the book of Matthew. Because at the end of the book of Matthew, it talks about this. At the end of the book of Matthew, everyone's there. And what happens? We're all standing before the great white throne. And Jesus just commented on this. Is he your advocate? Is he going to be your defendant? Is he the one who's going to stand beside you and say to God the Father as he sits on the throne and he's getting ready to pass judgment, is he going to come alongside you and say, I vouch for this person? Or is he going to say, I don't know, get away. All of us are going to be there. So what are you really afraid of? Because here's the thing, and I'm not trying to downplay those hesitations or those fears. I've felt them myself. Okay, I know what people experience. I've been in those situations where I don't know what to say. I've been in those situations where I've been like, I don't know if I'd want to go there because it would be dangerous to me. But what I'm trying to tell you is, it's more dangerous not to. Let's recognize where the real power is, the real authority is, where the real power is, right? When we look at Jesus, when we look at God, I think the reason why we often don't recognize it is because of how gentle he's been with us, how loving and gracious he's been with us. And so we almost look at him as like this big grandpa figure, and it's like, oh, he couldn't possibly scold me or tell me no. But he will. So where do you put your fear? We've been talking a lot about faith, and I've been asking, where do you put your faith? Because we need to make sure we put our trust in the right place, right? What do you trust? What do you believe in? What is your faith? But we also have to consider, where is your fear? What are you really afraid of? Because if you're not fearing the wrath of God, your priorities are wrong. Okay, if you're not fearing the authority of God, the power that he has, if you're not recognizing that and seeing it for what it really is, your priorities are off. Again, it's not that he wants to, it's that he wants to show us kindness, love and forgiveness. He wants to come here and advocate for us. This is his message. This is what he's here for. This is why he came and made the lame walk, made the blind see, made the dead rise. This is why he did this. He did it because he loves us so much. He wants to give us that opportunity to be united with him. So what are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of what some fellow human being bears? Good timing. What are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of what humans can do to you? Or are you afraid of what God is capable of? Maybe bears. Right? We got to make sure we set our priorities, get our act together, understand what the real problems of this world are. Otherwise, we're just going to keep living the same way, making the same mistakes, because if we don't actually see God as all-powerful, if we don't actually see God as the King of Kings, who has the authority by just speaking to make things change, to walk on water, to stop the storm, to bring life back again, if we don't see him in that light, we're never going to get it right. That's right, he's in heaven. And he's looking down on us right now, and he's asking, where's your fear? Where's your faith? Because he came to save us. So let's give him the proper respect this morning.